Hi, this is Odeean. Today I'm having a look at some of the Neca 7-inch Kaiju from Pacific Rim Series 3. I avoided a lot of the earlier stuff just because I thought it was too small and looked a little bit crappy, to be honest. But these new 7-inch figures are pretty damn fantastic, at least in the way that they look. So it's worth doing a little bit of a video just to show them off. I find that the sculpts on these, it's particularly in the surface detailing, like the textures, are just fantastic and up there with anything coming out of Japan, at least with how that they look. So the articulation isn't quite there, but if you view these as just something nice that's going to go on your shelf, they're really good value for money. At the time that I bought them, I think that I got both of these Kaiju. I think the shipped price might have been about $60. I think they're starting to dry up a little bit now, so you might find it a bit harder to get than that, but definitely worth having. I think even if I had to pay $50 each for these, I would think that they weren't too overpriced, and that's just because they go with some of my other stuff so well. Let's get some comparison happening here. So first off, my favorite Godzilla, the burning 1995 Godzilla. He's an awesome figure, but you can see these Kaiju from Pacific Rim are just huge compared to Godzilla. So I don't know the numbers of how high these guys are supposed to be, but they do look pretty badass on the shelf with SH Monster Arts. If you want to compare it to something which is by Neca, I don't have a lot of monsters by Neca, but you can see another 7-inch figure. I think that's a classic Predator, so definitely they don't look too good on the shelf together. They're not meant to be anywhere near the same scale, but just to give you an idea of how high they actually stand. And I guess the way that a lot of people will be shelving them anyway is with their wave buddies, Cherno Alpha and the other Jaeger, who I don't really like, so I'm not going to show. This is a fine toy. I'm not going to give him his own review just because a lot of people have done it, and that's not my focus. My focus is on these cool monsters. But Cherno Alpha is a pretty decent figure, and you can see they look pretty much the same size. What I'd really like to see to go with these are some Kaiju a little bit bigger, I think, like some of the bigger guys, because I feel like he's maybe a bit overly powerful next to Trespasser here. The articulation's pretty stilted in some areas, but we do get a usable amount on the head, so it's got a ball happening there. The mouth can open and close. One thing I love about the mouth opening is it kind of reveals this orange, and it can give the illusion of a bit of glow coming from out of the mouth as it opens, and I think that's pretty fantastic. The tongue is also done really nicely in there, if you can see it. Looking straight on, you can see he's got 4 eyes. It looks a little bit wonky from this face forward position, but I don't think he's meant to be viewed that way. I think it's pretty obvious you're meant to see this big kind of axe on the front of Trespasser. I don't know why this guy is Trespasser. I know there's another one slated for release called Axehead, and I'm thinking this guy looks like he should be called Axehead. I'll probably pick that up, but I just don't know what the difference is between the two at this stage. The shoulder joint has a lot of rotation happening here. Now it does collide with the spike. It'll probably wreck the paint if you do that too much, but it's got a wide range. It's meant to have in and out, which it does. It's kind of semi-ratcheted, a bit less than 90 degrees. The kind of disappointing point of articulation is this elbow. So it's got rotation if you kind of force it, but as far as backwards and forwards, I would call that maybe 15 or 20 degrees, and then the sculpt starts colliding with itself. Now, depending on where exactly you do it, you can get maybe a little bit more, but it is highly limited in that major elbow articulation. On the minor elbows, for the internal arms down here, there is no articulation on the elbow, but we do get a universal joint at the shoulder, like this minor shoulder here, and we do get, I think it's a universal joint on the wrist. So the big wrist up here, I think, is a ball joint. Pretty limited again, but we do get swivel and a little bit of jiggle in every which way. The hip, it's got a decent range, a little bit of in and out. There's a swivel at the knee and a pretty decent bend at the knee. What feels like a ball at the ankle. And then finally on this tail, this is one of those old style wire tails with a wire sticking through there. You can straighten it out. Of course, if you do that too much, the wire may snap after a while and you won't be able to hold a pose. So I try to leave it alone as much as possible. But it is a pretty nice looking tail. It's got some sculpting happening on it here. Very different from something like Monster Arts, which is more segmented. And it can be kind of cool to have a continuous tail instead of all those broken lines every once in a while. Now I did get the new knife head as well, the Battle Damaged Knifehead. I never got the original because people said a lot of bad things about it, but from what I understand, the original was only about this high. Definitely something not interesting to me. Having a look at the knife head, he does have a lot of battle damage. So particularly on this side, you can see all that blue ooze coming out of him. And I'm of two minds about this figure. I would really like a cleaned up version where he doesn't have all that paint all over him. But that doesn't mean I don't like this. I do like a lot of this battle damage. I just would like to have another choice. And I wouldn't be surprised if somewhere down the line this guy does get released with clean paint apps. And that's just because he seems to have sold out in a lot of places now. So it must have had some degree of success already. The head on Battle Damaged Knifehead has an opening and closing jaw. Not as satisfying as the jaw on Trespasser. It doesn't quite pull off that effect of glow, not as much when the jaw opens like that. So Trespasser's reveal of the orange inside was much more, like it just did something, whereas this just looks like more ooze coming out of his mouth. Maybe because there's so much of that blue everywhere to start off with. The tip here is pretty pointy. It's not like dangerously pointy, but you know, a lot of toys these days can't even have that much point, so I'm glad that they've done that. It is quite thin here. It does feel very knife-like. So his ball joint on the neck is far more limited than the ball that we get on Trespasser. He's not really able to move at all much from that neck. There are a lot of similarities between the two, but the sculpt is not the same, at least not on the body. So this region down here is unique. This is unique. This region up here seems to be unique. The shell seems to be unique. And it's not just a matter of these parts popping off, because, I mean, if you just looked at Knifehead, you would think this whole area is glued on and it's like a separate piece that they've just popped onto a base so that they could share some common parts. But when you look at the Trespasser here, his chest and upper neck aren't popping on and off. So, you know, I'm not entirely sure how they've done it. What I suspect is that the back section going under the shell and the back of the neck is probably in common with the back of Knifehead, and he's got this kind of collar that glues down over the top to cover up the back of the neck. And I think that the chest and shell are probably totally unique along with the heads, but the hands do seem to be exactly the same. So the hands, arms, legs, tail, all that business is the same, but the little bits that look different there, like on the front of the figure in particular, are new. There is a third one based on this mold. I think it's called Scunner. I've already bought it. It's in a pile of loot. I'll probably have it pretty soon. And I'm not sure entirely how much of that is new, but at least the head is new, because he's got like two horn kind of things, like a hammerhead shark a little bit, that come out like that. So I'm really enjoying these, and they do feel quite huge in the hand, so I can't wait to get him. That doesn't leave much else to say, but my final thoughts are that I think these are particularly good value and particularly nice figures. I don't love everything that Neca do. In fact, some of their things I outright dislike. Like I've bought some of their things and I got it and I thought, why did I get that? But these figures are pretty awesome, and I don't think anyone else is jumping at the chance to make them. I would like to be wrong. I would like to have an SH Monster Arts set of Kaiju, but I don't think that's going to happen. So go out and get these while you still can. This is my video review for Battle Damaged Knifehead, and the other one was Trespasser. I'm Odeean. Thank you for watching.